Is this thing on? Well, I hope so. Welcome to my first video. So today I thought we could look at some art tutorials and see what we can learn from them. And I'm gonna rate them from 1 to 10, or like 0 to 10, depending on how bad it can be. So yeah, let's take a look at them. So I've just searched up digital art tutorials and we'll see what comes up.
Drawing hair like spaghetti. A lot of people
drawing hair like spaghetti.
Make hair look like spaghetti by drawing it like this all the time, like through the whole length, and it doesn't look good. When you draw this,
yeah, when you're just drawing every little strand, it tends to look like spaghetti.
This way, you'll end up having hair that looks like macaroni. What you should do instead is take a brush that has very nice sharp edges, and when you're shading,
sharp edges are very important in like any art scenario. Good art tends to have a good balance between hard edges and soft edges, so good tip.
Don't just shade like this. Try to make shapes, whole shapes, and color it in. This is exactly what you can see.
Shapes are so good. And that's for like anything you want to draw. Try to see things as shapes instead of just the outline of things. Try to look at an arm as like a shape.
See right here, a lot of shapes, not even colored in, that create this whole composition. Just to show you, try to do things like this.
Yes, triangular shapes. I don't know why, they're just so good. I use them all the time in my art. Not just for hair, but like for everything.
Like this. And this. And that.
Color variations. If you're doing like brown hair, don't just do one kind of brown. Use color variations and don't be afraid to go a little bit into a bluish tone or a more warm tone. Have color variation. It just makes your art 10 times better. I promise you.
That's how you get results like this. Add some.
Yes, and the thing with like adding strands to the edges of the hair, I tend to only do it on the edges and a little bit inside, but mostly on the edges. That's what brings it to life, I think.
Tutorial on my YouTube soon. And
very nice tips. I think I will give this actually a 10 out of 10. She has some really good tips and very useful.
Does your sketch always looks godly awesome, but your line art always sucks?
Oh yeah, scratchy lines. I used to have such scratchy lines. I'll put a little drawing up here, and that was when I started out in digital art. Doing lines digitally is just a completely different thing from doing it on paper. At least that's my experience. So yeah, that's really something you gotta work on.
Then don't waste your time doing an awful line art. Instead, clean your sketch.
Oh my god, yes. Clean your sketch, please. I mean, line art is good for some styles. It really depends on your style. But for my style that's more painterly, it's just better if I just clean up the sketch.
If you clean it well enough, it will look so pretty. Does your sketch...
Yes, I will give this a 7 out of 10 because, again, it depends on your style. So just because you see a tutorial, don't just do what they say if you don't feel like it fits your style.
How I color skin part 2. Add kinda desaturated base colors. Now add blush just darker and redder than your base. Yes, don't be afraid. Add the same color to the eyelids. Nose contour. Red lipstick. Add grayish shadows under the brows, nose, and lips, at the neck and some corners too. Note that highlights and shadows varies differently depending on what lighting you use. Please render. It's indeed hard, especially on Ibis Paint, but if I can do it, so can you.
Okay, so for this one, I really like the rendering. The rendering is done so good. It looks smooth and just good overall. But I disagree with the desaturated color thing, because I feel like doing a desaturated color as your base skin tone, it gives a more dead look. I mean, if that's what you're going for, great. But I usually pick a more saturated skin tone. I can always dim it down if it's too colorful. I also use the technique where, like, I pick a base, and then I go in with like a bit more yellow for the forehead part, and the middle part is more red, and then the chin area gets a little bit more of a blue tint to it. And that's something about blood flow in our skin, and also just to put in color variations again. I think I will give this a, I don't know, maybe a 5, because the rendering part but also the color variation part is good, but I just disagree a little bit with the desaturated thing, unless it's your style that you're going for, of course. I just had to make sure it didn't go out. Also, like, I'm sitting on the back of the sofa, it's not very comfortable. And we're moving soon, so hopefully you'll get a better background soon. Okay, I can't read that fast. Use selection tools to select line you want to thin. Okay. Hit magic wand tool and select the liquify option underneath. Liquify is such a good tool that I don't think enough of us uses. Select the edge tool and glide it along your line to thin it. You might need to adjust the size and momentum of the tool. Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty good option to thin your lines, but you could also just erase them and do it again. I personally would just, I mean, if it's the whole artwork, you just finished all the lines and they're all a little thick and you want to make them thinner, I think that's a fine option. But if you just started and you notice, oh, I think it's a little bit too big or too thick, I would just go in and do it over and just make them thinner from the start. But yeah, I think I'll give this a 6 out of 10. It's a pretty good tip. But yeah, personally, I would just do the line over, you know. So I think that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you can use some of the things I said, and I hope we can learn together. Oh, whoa, before you go, I want to do an art roast video. Don't be discouraged by the art roast in itself. It's more like I look at your art and I critique it, but in a healthy way, so it's something you can learn from. And if you want to participate, just DM me on Instagram with your work, and I will have it in my video. I don't know how to do an outro. Like, can I just like, oh, what's that over there? I gotta go check it out. See you later.